All right, Greg, we're live, man.
Hey,
We're going. We're streaming to the greatest Facebook page of all, the 5 Star Connect page. How are you doing?
Great.
All right. So as people begin to tune in, if you are watching this and you have any questions at all for Greg or I, consider this kind of a ask us anything session, but and literally ask us anything, and Greg and I will do our best to answer on the fly. And then also we're just going to kind of run through some interesting things that are going on in the marketplace. We're going to talk a little bit about just some odds and ends, kind of some company updates, things like this. But yeah, so let's see here. Let me make sure we're streaming over here. Yeah, we're live. So all right, so let's see here. Where should we start? We got some
Zillow.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if anyone here watching this live stream saw some news here, but Zillow had a program called iBuying, and they last week they announced they were going to push pause on their iBuying, and as of today they announced they were shutting it down completely. So Greg, and obviously their stock is tanking right now because of these announcements, because this was like one of their pushes into the future was this idea of iBuying. For those of you who don't know what iBuying is, it's essentially the Carvana of houses, where you go make me an offer, Zillow makes you an offer, boom, they buy your house, they buy it at a discount from you, and then they turn around and they resell it. It's kind of like the instant offers from Zillow. So they shut it down, and that kind of rocked the industry, Dad.
So they're sitting with about 7,000 homes, unsold homes right now, that they paid too much money for. They realize it. And because they got really competitive and decided they were going to win on all these bids. And then the head of Rich Barton, the CEO or the principal, woke up here the other day, earlier this week or last week, and realized that this was a sinkhole. And we all have sat there watching this over the last few years going, how does this make sense? You're just going to go out and buy homes.
Well, it is. You kind of wonder, because we know how complex things can be, and what we can, and I think that leads us into our next conversation. But Zillow is laying off 25% of its staff, and they're taking over a $500 million loss minimum.
So this guy has been kind of like he's been kind of written up as the golden boy in the disruptor of the real estate industry. And I don't want to sit here and gloat over anybody's awful stuff going on.
He's clearly successful, right? Rich Barton is one of the founders of Zillow, clearly successful. He also founded Expedia?
Expedia, yeah. He's a billionaire. But here's the deal. It didn't make sense to too many brokers in the business who are sitting back watching this take place, and everybody's telling us, we've got to get in the game, we've got to do this. And we actually did meet with somebody out of Chicago who was offering us the opportunity to do this, and we just never really jumped on board. And so it was an interesting journey. But what Rich Barton came out and said, and this is the quote, and I'm not going to get this exact, so you can find this quote online, but he pretty much said, our analytics broke down, the flexibility, the complexity of the market. We were unable to be really good at pricing in this type of a deal. Well, think about
like hold on a second here. They're really good at telling you what your house is worth, but when they're doing it where they're actually buying it and reselling it, their numbers aren't very accurate.
We'll find that the actual thing, and we'll put it out there. But any of you should be able to find it right now, because it's from Wall Street to every real estate in the news, Real Trends. They're all talking about it. Risk Media, and so it's the big news of the industry. It was on all the business channels this morning, and it's significant. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what it's going to do, but they are going to
Well,
lose
the
a lot of
interesting thing
money.
is there's a bunch of competing companies out there that are doing iBuying. There's Open Door, there's Knock.com. There's all sorts of these companies that were doing iBuying. So the question really becomes, does Zillow see something ahead of them? Are the rest of them going to all of a sudden fold up shop too and not do iBuying anymore? Or are these companies going to still,
Yeah.
if I'm an investor into, let's say, Open Door, and Zillow, one of the largest names in real estate, just pulled out of that whole entire space, I might be wondering, holy cow, am I heading towards a cliff?
Yeah, one of the things that amongst many, I'm sure, are that today the Federal Reserve Board is meeting, and they have decided, apparently, that this will be the news by the end of the day, that they are going to start tapering in the amount of money that they print, which they're using to pay the debt. If they do that, they're expecting that we are going to see rates begin to rise, if not by the end of the year, the first quarter. So just know right now that we will know more in the coming days, but for the first time in a long time, the Federal Reserve is talking about inflation. They can't seem to pull it back. And the number one tool of the Federal Reserve to slow inflation down, which also includes speculation, is raising interest rates. It was done back in the early 80s. And matter of fact, the interest rates went from like about 8 or 9% at that time. They went all the way up to 18%. Well, that brought things to a halt. I'm not sure. I'm hopeful that we're not going to see an event like that again.
Well, no, and like this, maybe we referenced a little bit of the company meeting we had last week where we had the economist in from Grand Valley. And I think everyone's anticipating, what did he say? He said interest rates are definitely going up, but not, he didn't say they're going to go out of control. He said, but they're going to go up.
Right. Nobody has said how much. The key will be, how high do they have to go to? You can't have 6% inflation. That hurts people.
Is that the number that you heard? 6%?
Oh, that's the number that they have pretty much for the year. I think they're about at 6%. And so with that being said, that cuts into every aspect of everybody's lives. And so inflation is the big tax. It's really, right. And it taxes everybody. It sees nothing. It goes after everybody.
Hey, Greg, why don't you take your phone and put it onto mute, flip the switch.
Sorry about that.
All right. I can tell you're in high demand right now.
Yeah. So anyway, this is just one aspect. I want to kind of keep moving here, Paul. We've got.
All right. Well, hold on a second. Where are you moving? Where are you moving?
Well, I was thinking about moving over to some of the things we talked about at the company meeting, where I talked about vision. I talked about value.
Oh, real quick here. I think we should connect the two things here. So you mentioned a minute ago, you were talking about how we have the iBuyer thing in Zillow. And I think this plays really well into what you think is part of our value as realtors, right? Part of our value is that we are boots on the ground. We are, we're here, we're real people. We're able to deal with a highly charged, highly emotional, highly complex, infrequent transaction for most people.
Well, you're talking about what Steve Murray has told us.
Yeah, I'm swinging it from Zillow. Zillow wanted you to think that buying and selling a house was as easy as clicking a button.
Right. Buying a bicycle.
Yep, just boom, buy it, done. And anyways, now let's swing it into the value thing you were discussing.
And again, that opens up that discussion too of all of these disruptors, all of the discounters that are trying to push back on brokerage fees, are making the case that they want it to be frictionless, simple, and they don't understand why it just can't be done from your phone, why you can't just buy a home from your phone today. Mm-hmm. And, for those of you that have been in real estate for any length of time, you understand that there's so many things involved here. And it's so interesting that these very, very smart people do not seem to comprehend either that or our agent or our industry has done a very poor job of explaining our value in what we do. So I actually have committed here over the next 12 months that hardly a moment's going to go past where I'm not going to talk about an agent's value. And it's important in that each one of you are able just to, this should be like second nature. It should not be difficult for you to describe what your value is to somebody. Right. And so, we've talked about, those things that somebody's committing to this experience, and there's no guaranteed fee that anybody's going to get paid right off the get-go. Somebody's doing work for nothing, no guarantee of any payment. That's what the real estate industry has done, number one, in my humble opinion. And then, so you're investing time with no guarantee of a payment. You pay for things out of your own commission many times to get the deal done when you had absolutely no fault in it. And think about it, if you weren't there and there's not anybody that's making any money, who's going to be the person that's going to give a little bit to massage both sides, to get both parties to move? And because we all know that we deal with a bunch of people that get their feet in cement and they're not moving. And then you start talking about things like, well, it's the principle of the thing. When you hear that, yeah, it's when you get out your wallet, I guess, because you're not going to close it when somebody's going to stand on a $200 issue. And so there's so many aspects and there's so many places to go. If you just type in Google, what's the value of a real estate agent? What are the value points? And it's like, I pulled something off the Naples Association of Realtors. And the reason I was down there looking is because we're looking at opening up a brokerage in Florida. And we actually are probably within 30 days of being able to have agents who have got their Florida licenses to place their license with 5-star real estate of Florida.
Hopefully sooner than that.
Well, hopefully sooner.
Yeah. And really quick, because I know people are going to have some questions since you just dropped that little nugget there. We are excited because Florida has this really funny connection with Michigan. Michigan people love Florida. We all vacation there. We all our relatives retire there. So there's this really interesting connection there. And I mean, even places like LMCU, like Michigan Credit Union, have opened up down in Florida because there's so many of their people down there. So we're excited. So the way it would work is that you're able to have a license in Florida and it all goes into the same exact cap you have now. There's no additional cap or additional fee structure for Florida. It'd be the same exact structure you're currently working with. So if you're on the 100% program, it worked just the same way. There's no additional fees.
So basically it's seamless, but there are a couple things that an agent has to do. They have to get their Florida license.
Yep. And
that'll take some effort. There'll be some costs involved. And then they have to join an association down there. And they won't have to pay NAR dues twice, but they'll have to pay their local association plus the state association.
Yep.
And so anyway, back to the value thing here again, which again, like I said, it's going to be really, I think our industry brokers, including myself, have just not done a very good job, because if we had, people would understand why we get paid what we get paid. And it's so distressing to see somebody that has no idea out there telling the public that we're not worth what we're asking for, what we're charging. And they also are saying that it's not negotiable. Well, based upon what I see, it looks like real estate commissions are negotiable. And so there's lots of misinformation going on out there. So we evidently have to do this because I don't see NAR doing it. NAR is fighting a bunch of battles right now with the DOJ. Michigan, the state of Michigan has been working on the short-term rental thing. That's been their focus over the last year or two. But nobody is standing up for the agents and saying, no, these people are doing all sorts of things. And so, just as a list that I pulled up here, it's like, you help determine the buying power of a buyer. And again, they can go to a bank, they're going to tell them, here's the numbers, here's what you can afford. But you've got real life experience, and you can tell them the ins and outs, the ups and downs of why or maybe not they shouldn't go that high. You have the ability to assist in a home search in ways that they don't have. You can find things that are not even on the market. You have access to other realtors, friends that you can talk to ask if they know of anything. You can assist in providing information about each property from a variety of things, depending on how informed you are on local community, zoning, schools, utilities, easements. There's just a myriad of things that you guys are dealing with. And then there's negotiations. The reason that most people hire a third party is they stink at negotiating for themselves. And I mean, I don't know about any of you, but I would be one of those people that I would say I'm not a good negotiator for myself. And so to me to have a third party doing some of that work and effort for me, that's a huge thing.
Yeah, I can tell you right now, you should see me when I list something on the Facebook Marketplace. I want $50 for it. Someone's like 20. I'm like, done, sold. Yeah. I'm not a tough negotiator when it comes to my own stuff, but I seem to have no problem listing someone else's property and negotiating for them. But when it's my own thing, I'm like, take it.
Yeah. So if somebody came to you and said, why are you worth what you're asking? I think that you have to be able to have a nice, professional way of expressing that. And so Paul and I have for years, we've kind of hung out with this guy named Steve Murray, and he came up with these 3 or 4 different things. And he said, number one, it's complex. Number 2, it's infrequent, which means that how do they even know what to ask? I mean, seriously, what does a buyer or seller know about asking the right questions? How many of you have experienced that? I've often said that when I was listing and selling, that I would actually ask the questions to myself because I knew they needed to know these answers, even if they didn't ask them. Because if you sell a home once or twice, or maybe even 3 times in a lifetime, what do you know? Not much. They think they know. And especially if they had a great realtor and things went smoothly and swimmingly.
I asked my buddy, because I have a good friend of mine that loves to try and figure out, he loves people like Zillow. He loves these iBuyers because he's definitely in the camp that he thinks that maybe there's a way to disrupt real estate. And so we sit here and we talk about it, and I let him toss his ideas at me. And he was like, if I sell my house, Paul, I'm going to try and sell it myself. And I was like, cool. And I said, so how would you determine what your home is worth? And he was like, well, I would just do a little bit of looking online on Zillow. And I was like, okay, so you list it, right? And then let me ask you what happens in this scenario. You get an offer, cash deal. They want to know in 6 hours. They have a $50,000 EMD. And they want you to accept it within 6 hours, and they want to close it in 2 weeks. It's a pretty sweet looking offer, right? I go, what would you do? Because how do you know that offer is, what if you waited 3 days? Could you get more? Will you get less? Like, how would you know what to do in that situation? Because I'm sitting here going, my guess is that you're going to look at that offer and you're going to accept it because it's going to look really, really, really good. But I think you might be leaving money on the table, enough that's going to more than pay for your realtor.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's just interesting situations like that where it's like, I mean, we know what it's like. You see, you have all dealt with your clients. You see how emotional this thing can get, right? I mean, anyways, moving on.
Well, again, it's funny. People always say, well, commercial real estate is not emotional. Well, yes, it is. You got human beings involved. Somebody wants to win. And so it gets emotional. And
all right, a couple more announcements here, Greg. So we're gonna keep talking about value. It sounds like you're gonna keep hammering this. We don't have to say anything on value, but maybe we'll even do a value workshop.
Well, I would love for anybody that's watching or listening in, if they're willing to write Paul some things that they think about that is value that's probably not acknowledged. And Paul and I have said this multiple times. we've heard from agents, we'll start out this conversation, we'll say, look, don't put down honest and integrity and hardworking as your first three. That's
your value can't be honesty, integrity, and hard work, because every single realtor is going to say those things are their value.
It's not a distinction. It's not going to separate you. So anyway, Paul, did you want to go in another? I got another area to go to here.
Yeah, I was thinking, first off, we can get a shout out to 2 new employees that we have here at 5-Star, 2 new staff members. We have Cindy Beckwith and we have Marissa Harrington. So I don't know if you guys are aware who are watching, but we are in the process of opening up a Lansing office. Believe it or not, we're opening up in Lansing, and we have
signed a letter of intent this morning.
Yeah, we just signed a letter of intent on this space in Lansing. It's near this place called the Theater on Showtime Drive over in Lansing. If you know where that is, I think it's between DeWitt and East Lansing, but it's a pretty central area, pretty nice area. And we already have a few agents on board, and we're bringing over 2 new agents here this week. And so I think we'll be up to maybe 4 to 6 agents in Lansing, maybe by weekend.
It'll be close to 6 agents by the middle of the month.
Yeah. So we're opening up in Lansing, and Cindy Beckwith is a longtime realtor that just joined 5-Star. She came from Remax. Is that right?
Yep.
And she is on our broker support team now. And for those of you who don't know what our broker support team is, broker support team are people like Tracy Johnson, Doug Hale, Marissa Harrington is on the broker support team, Cindy Beckwith, Kim Anderson. And these people are, while they're placed regionally, they're really here for all the entire company to answer questions, to work through situations. You've got a question that's not necessarily a deal doctor legal question or something that's like, really sticky and tricky. Broker support is there to help you navigate those scenarios. So that's who the broker support team is.
Well, the example
Marissa's also joining the broker support team, and she's in the Kalamazoo area. And Marissa will also be focusing on education stuff. So, and doing some cool things with Ninja and creating some groups and all this kind of stuff. So we're super excited to have these 2 new individuals added to the team. And as always, all of the broker support team are available to every single person in the company. And so you might really like Doug, you might really like Tracy, you might love Marissa. You can call anyone you like.
Yeah, just because they have an address in a certain town does not mean that's where they're limited to. And they all know how to look at a buy-sell agreement. They all know how to evaluate it. There are some nuances throughout some of the areas, but that is not going to be an issue for these people. And and again, we've got the deal doctors, and then we've got attorneys that back that up as well.
And I want to say one more thing before we go. I don't even know where you're going, so maybe I'm gonna steal your thunder here. But we are bringing Ninja back. I think you guys saw that we sent out an email about Ninja, and some of you are probably going, "What the heck is Ninja?" Greg, what is Ninja?
Well, in my humble opinion, it was something that I found years ago that I felt was if somebody did not want to be a cold caller, if somebody did not want to chase expireds and FSBOs, if somebody wanted to build a truly relational business, that Ninja was an absolute home run. And that's how I worked, was on that basis, and using anything and everything you could to build your sphere. And so we're excited to have Ninja coming back. And I don't remember what month it is, but I know it's May, June next year, is it? Or is it? We'll get something out.
When is it? Ninja. Hold on. I got it right in my email here.
While you're looking at that, Paul, again, we want to keep letting everybody know that there are referral opportunities going both ways right now.
May 16 through 19.
All right. So we've got agents in Traverse City. We've got an agent in Kalkaska. We've got an agent in the UP. We've got agents in Alma. We've got agents in Ludington. We've got agents now in Lansing and Jackson and Mount Pleasant, Commerce over in Detroit. We're building an office out in Battle Creek. So, we have had, during this last 2 years of COVID, we did not just sit down and, fold up our tent and go home. We actually worked very hard. The company has grown substantially in the last 2 years. in the middle of this crisis or whatever you want to call it here, but it appears that we're moving forward. I just personally got my booster shot last night, so I've got a sore shoulder. But
real quick here, speaking of not slowing down, I wanted to let everyone know, and we can drop a link in here, but I was curious, does everyone know about our YouTube channel? So on our YouTube channel, we have over 300 videos for people to go and look at. So every Deal Doctor video, every video Greg and I have done, all the things, all the live streams we're doing end up on that YouTube channel. And we're trying to categorize them, label them so they're helpful. But go and check out that YouTube channel. Like if you want to see Don talk about escalation clauses, just go there and type in escalation and see what comes up. But dig into it if you guys want to go and like find a little nugget here and there. We have 300 videos we've created at that YouTube channel.
all righty. So the last thing that, I hear this and I see this in different ways, and it manifests itself in unique ways, but some agents are very good at getting referrals. Other agents, they get the job done, the deal closes, timely, whatnot, and for whatever reason, they do not get referrals. And or at least they do not get the number of referrals that they would like. And as we've heard, Paul, every successful sale that you have, they probably know 4 people that are going to buy or sell in the next 12 months. So every person you work with knows 4 people that are going to buy or sell. So that being said, I would think that one of the things that every agent would want to spend time on would be, how do I increase my referrals?
Yeah.
And, as I think about this, some words that I just wanted to put out there, but one of them is that I believe that over communicating, and now how do you know if you're over communicating? How many of you have had a seller or a buyer say, hey, you've been calling me way too much. I can't take this anymore. You've been sending me too many emails. That would be over communicating. I'm going to guess that you probably haven't had too many calls like that, which means that every one of you probably have room to increase your communication and not let people sit for a hot minute wondering what's going on. The second thing is that we pride ourselves in solving things. We don't make problems, we solve problems. So an example there would be, so you get some news and you can call people up and say, oh boy, we got a problem here. And personally, I never did that. What I always tried to do was, before I called somebody back with bad news, was how do I give them a choice or a possible solution? Even if they're not, wonderful, I did not want to call the people back without offering them, look, you can do A, you can do B, you can do C. Personally, I think that B would be the least painful, but it's your call. You tell me how you want to handle it. Versus calling somebody up and saying, boy, we got a problem. That's dumping. No one wants to be dumped on. So that's 2. 3 is, I believe when you're working with people, they want to see kind of a sense of urgency when you are doing things on their behalf. They don't want you to put urgency on them. They want you to put urgency on everybody that is in their way or is preventing them or whatever. They never want the urgency coming their direction, but they want to see you using it. So when you think about how do you get people to really value what you do again, there's 3 things that I believe that if you were to talk with the top agents who get the most referrals, and matter of fact, I'd encourage you to call them and ask them, what do they think are the things that they do that create the most referrals, other than we're just a nice person, we're kind, we're good, we're nice. Those things all play into it, right? But I believe it's more than that. I believe that top agents actually do these little things that are really earth moving, but yet they're so little, they don't look like much. And so it's the little things. It's always the little things that seem to make the biggest difference. And that's kind of been my experience throughout my career. So pay attention and over communicate, solve, don't dump, and make sure that that they can see that you have a sense of urgency on their behalf. So, Paul,
Yeah.
anything, I mean, we could probably keep going on here for another hour, but I don't think they're looking for that. We can.
Oh, I
we can
think we're at 33 minutes. So no, I think that we just wanted to come today and just share some news, kind of see what share what we're seeing, talk about some Zillow, talk about Florida, talk about Ninja, talk about value. But Dad, I think we should do some kind of a value building like workshop, like
I will trust.
It seems to be something that agents have a hard time quantifying.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you work on setting something up here maybe for late November, early December?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it'll be virtual or in real life or what, maybe it'll be virtual, but we'll try and figure it out. We'll do something. We'll talk about value.
All righty.
All right, everybody.
See ya.
Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.